You are listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset with Pete Monfre and Bill Lowell. We want to help demystify marketing to reduce risk, drive more and better opportunities, and grow your business. Are you ready to master marketing?
Well, all right then. I'm Pete Monfre, and here we are at the marketing mindset, the B2B marketing mindset. I got the name of it all clumbled up in my mouth there. It's terrible. It's not like we don't do this every single week at 11 o'clock Central. So today's topic are trade shows and events worth the investment post-COVID. And we've got Anna Bahr as our special guest, and she's going to share some trade show advice. Welcome. And speaking of surrounding myself with smarter people, let me first introduce my co-host, Bill Lowell, broadcasting from an undisclosed location. Welcome back. We're trying to get the operational security around you, keep you safe.
Thank you. Very safe from what? But that's great. Thank you.
Well, we just, don't want to reveal too much.
I know.
However, we will put Anna's address in the comments. Welcome.
No.
So give us 2 minutes on who you are and what you do, and then tell us why trade events are on your mind. And full disclosure, I have met you, but it was only a few minutes ago. So.
Yes. So thank you for the brief introduction. I work for a company that's in the agribusiness industry today, but I have worked across many different industries, including finance and banking, marketing, and event planning, and all of the like. But today I am happy to be talking to you about trade shows and event planning, mostly because I just really enjoy them. I think they're fun. I am a little bit of a type A personality, I am told. So I think I do well when it comes to planning them and bringing them together, and I just get a lot of satisfaction out of them.
Awesome. I'm one of those weird people too, actually, that loves trade shows. Is there something wrong with me? Bill, what do you like trade shows, or?
I actually do, and I've done a lot, and I've done a lot of research at them, and I actually ran a couple for one of my clients for a long time. So that was kind of fun too. So yeah, I like them, but I know Anna's got so much great insight on this, so it'll be fun to kind of get her perspective, and then you and I can make stuff up, Pete, the rest of the time.
Well, absolutely. It's sort of I'm adjusting everybody's shot just a little bit, and it's happening live on the air. So there you go in the titles. Well, anyway, the sense that I get from what I'm reading and experiencing, and and again, I've been to hundreds and hundreds, and I've designed them, and I've been in charge of them, and done this for clients and for our own companies, and of course COVID killed them off completely, and there was a lot of predictions about how the future of the trade show was going to go as far as meeting in person. As I say, the land of hand sanitizer that we live in now, the age of hand sanitizer is what I call it. But the face-to-face events making a comeback. Yes? Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that there's a lot of reasons that trade shows and in-person events are making a comeback. I think one of the largest reasons is that they are very economical for a business, because if you're going to the right trade show, you are going to capture a large part of your target market in one place. So a good example for my company being an agribusiness is the International Packing and Production Expo. I believe that's it. It's IPPE for short. But it's a poultry show, and it's huge. And you just will not capture a greater portion of your market than when you go to that show. It's a great opportunity to launch new product, go see what other companies are doing. And oftentimes something that I find is, if you're planning ahead, you're going to have a much easier time getting meetings with your key clients, or maybe the people that you want to be your clients in the future, than you would any other time. So rather than having to pay for a flight, a hotel, and convince someone to let you through their door so that you can pitch product or your company to them. When everyone is in one location, I feel that they're much more amenable to coming and sitting down with you for 30 minutes to an hour to see what you've got. And you are saving yourself some expense by not having to pay for those additional travel costs.
Well, what's interesting is you said economical. I think among mid-sized businesses, there's a perception that trade shows, they're sort of the redheaded stepchild of marketers, right? They see them as very expensive and not very productive. But let's crack this myth right open right now, because I see this all the time. These companies aren't leveraging the opportunity in a deliberate way, right? There's this massive platform, and they throw up a booth, or they just stand around in it, or maybe they don't throw up a booth, but they go and they meet a lot of people and they don't follow up. There's no deliberate strategy there. So do you see that a lot, Bill? I mean, in your trajectory over the years with clients doing trade shows?
I do see that, and that's the disappointing thing. But I think exactly what Anna said is really true. I mean, what an opportunity to get, so much stuff in one space. And like you said, it is economical, but I think some companies are just naive, or, like you're saying, Pete, they don't put a plan together or a strategy to go after this. And then, because like you've had it and I've had it, I get some clients that will complain to me all the time, oh, we have to go to this show or do this, and it's like, it's so obvious they're not doing any kind of planning or any kind of execution. And it's just, I mean, why go if you're going to be that pathetic? Unless the other side of that is, you look bad by not being there too. So it's like, it's a kind of a no-win. But
quite a bit of my work is in fixing marketing programs and activities, like fixing people's marketing strategies. And it's so often I could just say, you're doing it wrong. And then I'd be done, right? You were going to say something, Anna.
I was going to say something as well is I think that a lot of people, you could spend 20,000 to 40,000 on a digital or print marketing campaign, and you may be able to geo target or demo target, but you still don't necessarily know exactly who is clicking on your ad or who is viewing your ad, or if it's getting to precisely the people that you want it to. But when you go to a trade show, you are there seeing firsthand who is coming to your booth, who's walking by your booth, who you're having those meetings with, and you know for a fact that you are hitting the right people or you are not hitting the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many ways that, and granted, it gets kind of costly, but this is how trade shows make money: is they sell their list. Are you buying a list? Are you, what are you doing with the data that exists in that square footage? Probably not. If you're not doing much with that, you're missing out on opportunities.
I was going to ask Anna a follow-up though. Do you ever like pre-plan meetings, Anna, like where you might talk to a customer ahead of time as part of your strategy to say, we're going to be at that show and I hope that you'll stop by, or you'll set up a time for them?
Absolutely. So I don't do quite as much of the client meetings because I'm more on the marketing and event planning side, but our sales team and our leadership, they insist on planning that ahead. And what they are really clever about doing is they kind of put together a schedule. And so I'm going to use IPPE again because it's the largest show that we attend. So it's a very easy example. It was also just in January, so it's fresh on my mind. But we will build a conference room into our booth so that we don't need to mess around with trying to reserve room space elsewhere. And then we'll also have a couple tables outside and we number those places. And so our team can schedule their meetings to be at table 1 or table 2 or in the conference room. And so they are working ahead of time to reach out to the people that they really want to meet with to secure that face-to-face time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and right there, you're extracting a lot of extra value from just being there. You can't just be there. And you know what? You can't just watch this program either. You have to, or just, I'm sorry, you can't just listen to the program out on Spotify. Let's think of the poor guy out on Spotify who's listening right now. He might not know that there's beautiful people on this program, at least one, and you can see the video at b2bmarketingmindset.com. You can find a lot more content. We expand on these ideas. We try to get an article up the next day. If anything, by the next Monday you wake up, it'll be there, but there's going to be free courses. So that is really the place to sign up. You might have signed up on Apple, but you got a second sign up over on B2B Marketing Mindset if you want to get all the value out of the program. So, but let's jump to our, as you know, we do 5 points. And so the first question to ask our esteemed expert guest, are trade shows still relevant in the post-COVID and digital age? It's not just COVID. It's look at what's happening in marketing and in communication and with the internet. It's really, is the old trade show still relevant? I can guess your answer, but go ahead.
Well, I am biased naturally, but I think so. I think that there are a lot of reasons, and maybe this is my old-fashioned side or my communication side coming out, but I just feel that there's greater value in in-person meetings and in-person getting to see people for a lot of the reasons that we already discussed as well. But another thing that I personally see is morale. I think a lot of people get enjoyment out of attending trade shows because, especially depending on your industry, you've built relationships with a lot of people across the industry or in some of these different businesses. And so sometimes when you're at a trade show, you get to go out to dinner with those people, or you're going and grabbing a coffee at the coffee booth. And it's kind of, I think, akin to golfing in business, coffee in business at trade shows. Sometimes a lot of business happens on that quick walk to the coffee cart and back that wouldn't happen otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think digital events have a drawback where it's much harder to recreate it. And but I also think there's a push for it. Even though people are still kind of wiggy. I know in the events in general, they're kind of they're less consistent than they were before COVID. But Bill, what are your thoughts? Do you think that people yearn for a personal connection, and a trade show is a good place to do it?
I have mixed reviews. So I think that it is better in person. I think anything is. But you also heard we had a guest on several months ago, remember, where they were saying everybody wants self-serve and they don't want to meet with anybody, and so I don't know. I guess I'm really confused. Are people looking just for shortcuts? Is that kind of why they're preferring that digital age, or is it quicker? Or I really do subscribe to the in-person, just like Anna says, and I think you can get so much more, including competitive intelligence and all kinds of things I'm sure that she's going to talk about. But I unfortunately was part of some of the digital trade shows during COVID, and I did not find them helpful at all. And I think you could just see people tuning in and out, and would they attend the sessions? There was just so much stuff going wrong with it that I just didn't think it was that good.
You can't just turn to the person next to you and make a new contact. And
Exactly.
I see hybrid events maybe being a really good thing, but I remember a trade show that there was a speaker who is the CEO of a many billions of dollars company, and I was sitting next to someone I had just met, didn't know me at all. And I said, hey, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to meet Irwin Jacobs. And he said, you can't just walk up there and meet someone like that. And there was like somebody there from National Geographic, and there was somebody there who was an education conference. And Irwin is big on science education. And I said, well, you don't know me very well then, do you? So I got up from my table when they were done speaking, and I noticed and I walked up to this little elevated stage, and I noticed there were only 3 steps between me and Irwin, and no burly looking guys anywhere to be found. And I literally walked up there and I introduced myself to him, and I knew what I was going to say. It's very deliberate. I didn't want anything from him. I just wanted to get to know him better and share with him what we were doing. So he dug around in his wallet. He listened intently just for a few minutes. He obviously didn't have a lot of time, but he dug around in his wallet and he gave me his card. And it was all dog-eared. Like, you could tell it had been in the wallet for a long time. This guy doesn't give out his card to people. He said, make sure when you call, you tell them that you have my card, right? And
Uh-huh.
so he was a great advisor for a while, and an awesome guy, Erwin Jacobs, founder of Qualcomm. And so that's how I met him. Now, can you do that at a virtual event? So I'm not slamming on virtual events, right? I'm just saying there's all these, an infinitesimal number of random encounters that can mean massive, massive things. So I think they're still relevant. I mean, but again, I'm coming from a biased place of I love them. But
I think
if
things
you're,
can be. Oh, I
no,
apologize.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think that there's a certain efficiency to trade shows as well. So, an example that I can give is last year at Pet Food Forum, we were looking for some packaging and we were looking for a very particular kind. And while at Pet Food Forum, I was able to just walk up and down the aisles in a matter of hours and basically go to every packaging company and say, "This is exactly what I'm looking for. Do you have it?" And they were able to say, "Yes, we do," or "No, we don't." And I was like, "Great." And I could either check them off or circle them on my little sheet. And now I knew who my contacts would be. And I had their card, I had their contact information. And I did in a couple of hours what would have taken me days to do previously. And I would have had to have been waiting for callbacks and going through voice prompts. But instead, I was able to just find what I needed a
Get
lot
her
more.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great point. You know, competitive intelligence. And then there's, I don't know if I should tell anyone this, but I've actually gone to trade show and was able to access a major competitor to my client, their private customer product timeline rollout thing. It's maybe a little gray hat, but hey, you know what? Trade shows are where you get it, man. Trade shows have everything. I'm an advocate for trade shows, I suppose. Um,
Along those same lines, think about this, Pete. Where else could you get even like a group of experts together at one place, talk to
Mhm.
them, and then from Anna's point, maybe from a public relations or a marketing perspective, you can promote or do a white paper, do something on the leading thought process in that industry just by talking to those people. So, I mean, I think her idea about the efficiency of it is just right
it's
on track.
huge, yeah. Well, it kind of brings us to the next point, or the key elements, and we're kind of talking about having deliberate strategy, like showing up with that paper or that study or something that's an original content that you did, or maybe you're doing a keynote and you're getting speaking. The people that tell me, "Oh, trade show waste of time," I say, "Hey, have you ever spoken at one?" Why would I do that?
Yeah.
What do you think, Bill?
Me, don't ask me.
Do you think they? I
I've
mean,
spoken at so many trade shows and so many events. I mean, to me, there hasn't been one time, Pete, that I haven't spoken at one of those things where I haven't gotten business out of it, where people come up to you, or I mean, it creates that expert feel. So I think it's really smart. And by the way, I've spoken at a few where I had no business speaking at those. You know what I mean? Where it was
it's
like,
the
I think I
best
was out of
kind.
my head. It is. It's great.
You're just making it up as you go with room full
Well,
of
I
experts.
wasn't doing that, but you
No, I
talk
know.
about dealing with people so much smarter than you. I did an emerging technology one once for the IEEE, and oh my God, everybody in that audience was 10 times smarter than I was, but it was fun.
I like it.
To your
I like
point,
it.
uh, if I may, you can kind of so a lot of those speaking positions at a lot of the trade shows I get to go to today are highly coveted because it's a very science-based industry, and so getting to share what your newest study results were can be very uh, important or exciting to the success of your product or your work.
Right?
And we were at a trade show last year, and it didn't occur to me beforehand, but it kind of occurred to me afterwards. Our Whether or not what we were presenting was going to be important or relevant to the market. And so our team member was up on the stage presenting, and you just wouldn't believe the number of people that were filing in. And it was very exciting for us. One, because they scan everybody's badge that comes in. So we get a list of everyone who attended that event so that we can follow up, but also maybe know if there were any competitors in the room who were able to glean some information from our presentation. But also, it was just a bit exciting for us because we were presenting on a new product. And to see how many people came in and to see how popular the talk was, let us know, okay, we're on the right track. We're making something that people are interested in, as opposed to if we had had one of the more empty talks, we might have thought to ourselves, ooh, we are not popular for some reason. Why might that be?
Well, it takes an enormous amount of effort to do that, but it's worth it. And you know, a lot of the companies that I've worked with that were most successful with trade events, their planning for the next trade event happens immediately when the trade event is done. So they're
Yeah.
spending a year getting ready, and you know, that's I think you want key elements to success is one is have a plan. Don't just show up. Know why you're there. And then the follow-up piece, that's another part that seems to get lost. And then I would also say take advantage of, you know, spend some money, get that data, get as much data as you can so that you can reach out and touch a targeted slice of those people. I mean, you know, I bet that one company that, you know, we're like, who's this Pete Monfre guy? He's not a competitor and he's not with us. But you know, if you expect secrecy at these things, I mean, look, like you said, you know, you're going to know if a competitor was there or not, but you can't stop people from getting in. So,
No.
you know, you shouldn't be talking about any corporate secrets at a trade show anyway. But you know, if you're a marketer, though, this is really rich information, experts, customers, competitors. But there's so much of it going on. It really deserves, I think it deserves its own little plan, like a written
I
marketing plan inside of your marketing plan.
One of the things that we do, I think we could do it better. I think a lot of companies could do this better, but just having a plan is, maybe it seems like a no-brainer, but I think it's one of
Well,
the things that needs to be fleshed out a little bit more and before you go to a trade show. Because if you are just attending, then it's not going to be paying you back for your booth or your whatever investment you put in. If you don't
right.
go in with a plan, then you're not getting your investment back. So, if depending on the type of event, so is it more of an educational event, or is it more of a networking event, or is it more of a this is where we have meetings and make sales event? You want to tailor your plan to what it is, and you want to be working on that far in advance. I think a lot of people leave planning maybe to within too short of a window. So they're not able to
Right.
secure the meetings or secure the booth space because, if you're having a booth, you want to have it in a good spot. If you're not going to be in a good spot, sometimes it's not worth going. Uh, I could
Well,
wax poetic. Okay,
right. This
sorry.
is how you get people that are like, oh, trade shows, man. It, they just don't work, and they're not doing anything to make it work.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll talk a little bit more. I think you know these following points expand a little bit on that, but industry events changing. They are changing. How are they changing? I was going to start with Bill, and then we'll go to our expert, and I'll shut up.
This is good. See, this just so you know, he's starting with me to ask how events are changing. So you're going to ask a dunce like me who has no clue, and then you're going to come and bail me out, and you look like the expert. So,
Just
so,
not true.
so I
No, go
think like
ahead. Um,
how are the events changing? Is that what you're asking me? How are the industry changing?
yeah, how are events changing as far as what you can tell from your perch? But we'll go to Anna for the real answer. But
Thank
go
you.
ahead, try
Thank you.
your
So,
best. Try
because
the
you saw,
best
I
you
just
got.
wasted 3 minutes of not
Give me
having a
what you
clue,
got.
right? Yeah. Thank you, Anna. Help bail me out. Bail me out.
How is
I,
some? Go ahead.
I I don't want to interrupt Bill.
Go for
I
it.
believe truly that you have the best content and the best answers. Uh, the way that I see the biggest changes, we've already hit on it a little bit, but technology. I think technology is just a full force item. It impacts one, the type of engagement and entertainment you can have at your booth. I've seen some really cool things where people are having tech companies come in and build completely immersive experiences to help them launch their product or just engage people and get them into their booth. So this could be anything from a photo booth to a custom designed game. Uh, you see a lot of VR now, where the VR headsets. Uh, there's also a lot more technology built into booths. Lead collection. So a lot of trade shows that you go to now, the badges will have a QR code, and you can either scan it with your phone, or if you are at a booth, they will give you a scanner and you can scan everyone who comes to your booth. So I guess in my opinion, technology is just really rapidly changing the way trade shows are executed.
Well,
One of the things, sorry,
go
Pete.
ahead. No, go ahead.
One of the things that I've done with one of my clients too, which has really been fun. There's an immunotherapy leading association in this country. It's called SITSI. I'll tell you something. During their conventions, though, they're using technology too. That after every day, they'll kind of summarize and do some digital stuff and do all kinds of things so that every attendee and the people that can't attend, if they've paid, they get kind of a download of everything that's been happening, that's transpired. I mean, they really make it interactive. I mean, it's like you said, Anna, it's just so cutting edge. And so that's a whole nother area of some advancements I think that some of the organizations are doing.
Well, and the best of both worlds approach where, it's not either or virtual, it's both now. And so again, there's a lot of people that it doesn't matter how valuable it is, they're not going. Maybe they just, and especially people that, that have the biggest jobs, a lot of times they don't have time for it, but they can still contribute, even remote keynotes, for example, which you never saw for 10 years ago even. Very common now to have a remote keynote. So, and I think that it's also the way they're changing is they're becoming more content oriented. And so your content and the quality of the content, it could be a speech, it could be a paper, it could be anything that, but it's becoming more and more important. So, but I think that's a great topic. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. Can I tell you why, if anything, why people don't go anymore? It's because they just haven't gotten their good handouts. It's like usually you get all these people that go with their bags and they fill all of their, their free giveaways or their tchotchkes. It's like, I think they've got enough of that. Maybe that's it. So they wait a year.
They got enough tchotchkes. They're done.
That's it. They don't need any more.
I don't know where I'm going to put these tchotchkes. I got so many of them.
I actually did an event for one of my clients. It was at the Consumer Electronics Trade Show out in Las Vegas. It was kind of fun, but I couldn't believe all the people that would come and just have bags full of stuff that they would just be collecting. And I remember once I was at the booth and I said, "Can I at least tell you a little bit about my client?" Oh, okay. They were there for some of the junk. It's like, give me a break. So you get some of those people too. So don't kid yourself.
So, fun anecdote maybe. I grew up going to trade shows with my dad. I was telling Pete a little bit about this before we got started. It's kind of where I first got to dip my toes in the water of trade shows. And my dad, he's been doing hardware his whole life. So he worked for True Value hardware stores and then, Menards, True Value, and then he worked for Ace for quite a while. And they give away so much stuff. And they are actually selling booths at hardware trade shows. So when you're going, you're buying the booth. They don't want to take the stuff home. And it's funny because we will tell my dad, it is and it isn't, but we will tell my dad, because there's so much stuff. We'll give my dad a shopping list of the things that we might need around the house. So for example, I need a new Tupperware. And I was like, hey, if you see like any Pyrex or great Tupperware, grab that for me. Or my sister needed a knife set, like for kitchen knives. And she's like, hey, if they're giving away any halfway decent knife sets, and he brought them back for us because they are there. They're giving those away. I've gotten Yetis. I've gotten a dog bed.
Hey, I need to go to some hardware conventions. Absolutely. I need a new set of wrenches.
There you go.
It's funny though. They're like, we're not hauling this stuff home. We don't even care. And actually, most of the bigger companies that I've worked with, that they don't want to haul it home. They don't want to ship it home. But they definitely want to show off the products. It brings me to our next point, balancing traditional and virtual events. But it makes me think of another funny story. Um, Refresh your window if it's frozen for you.
And I
Um,
do have a comment on the hybrid events, but I just want to put that on the parking lot for later.
oh yes, we're going to talk about that in a second. I just wanted to say that sorry, I'm having people in my ears, and there's some technical issue going on. Just go ahead, Anne, with your point, and let me handle this real quick.
I was just going to say that I think the uh, balance and the shift towards the online versus in person and maybe hybrid events is I think it's making them more accessible sometimes to people because there might be smaller startup companies or just companies that are trying to grow that don't maybe have the travel budget that year. And it makes it more or easier for some of their people to get to some of these more educational events or to see what's going on. Uh, and also, I think it's more accessible for companies to put on events or get themselves out there. I know our company, we have started doing a hybrid event every year, and it's more of a conference educational piece where we bring in speakers that are very professional and, top of their class and, what it is they're presenting on. And we will host them to present and we'll broadcast that live over the course of a few days. And we might host a few key clients as well, but mostly we're having those people attend virtually. And so it allows us to share what we're doing and share information that we wouldn't have been able to share otherwise.
Yeah, awesome. And the ability to broadcast live now, like we are right now, on 5 different platforms, and then of course it's syndicated in audio on I don't know how many, honestly, probably 15. Um, it's this technology is very accessible now, and what I was thinking of is we're talking about putting in the effort to create really valuable content but it's not valuable to the general public maybe, but it has to be valuable to your target audience. And this is where I think companies go wrong. And an example of this is I worked for a company that made cardiac imaging workstations. I was their chief marketing officer, and I was interim while we were doing a turnaround, and we built a beautiful trade show booth, and these guys were pretty good. We had a good strategy going in, and we had developed a bunch of content that was very niche oriented, right? Nobody in their right minds would want this content unless they were our target audience. Well, GE Medical was right across from us, biggest competitor, right across, humongous booth, much bigger. Ours was pretty big too. Uh, they had booth babes. I don't know if everyone's familiar with the topic of booth babes or the concept.
Yeah.
And they were also giving away iPads. And
Oh, gosh.
so their booth was full all the time. I don't think anybody gave a rat's ass about their products or their services. And so, you know, my client, steady flow of the right people, very valuable content, positioning them as experts in their field. They were launching one of the first electronic medical record systems. I mean, these guys are pretty sophisticated. And here's even funnier: GE is selling the same exact product, but with a different label on it. It was made by this company, but they certainly had more people in their booth. I have to admit. They,
Oh.
anyway, so traditional, the balance I think is interesting to me. So tell me a little bit about, let's say, so you're doing it by you have a strong presence there physically, and then you're live streaming, and then you're using social media and email also to, I mean, it sounds like it's kind of drill everywhere strategy.
Are you referring to the hybrid event I was just talking about?
Traditional and virtual together, how to balance those things.
I think it depends on the type of event to start. You don't want to take something where the engagement and the networking is a key part of it and take that online. However, if you're doing something like what we have started to do, and I have to give credit to this to our global team, this is not something that I'm particularly heavily involved in, so I don't want to give the impression that I am doing this myself. But our global team has done a really stellar job, I think, of kind of cultivating a really good group of people that they bring to our offices, because we don't have a huge amount of room, but we want to make sure we have a really engaging group there. And then they do a really great job of targeting the marketing out, and there's a lot of us reaching out to clients to say, hey, have you signed up for this? And they are broadcasting, I believe, through social media channels, but then we also have a website that we create that we get people to register through, that they can watch this on live. And it's really nifty because they have the different the whole schedule, because sometimes if you've ever been to a conference or a trade show, some talks are more relevant to you than others. And so they do a good job, I think, of showing who's going to be talking, when they're going to be talking, and about what, and really sticking to that schedule so people can kind of tune in when they want to, and then maybe go do something that's more valuable to them in the downtime, and then come back for the next presentation that they really care about. And I don't know, I
You know,
might be rambling a little bit.
no,
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 I think it's
get it.
what I caught from that too is this idea that a lot of companies will go into these things and they're thinking of social media as something that they'll do later. Like, make sure you take a lot of pictures so we could use them in social media. You want to be doing this in real time. A lot of the when we organize a trade show for a client, we're going to have a team basically on the website almost 24/7. I hate to admit that, but that's about how it works sometimes. And just keeping that, up to the minute. But they've actually, we will plan out content releases through the show. So it isn't just, hey, we took a picture on the floor, we uploaded it right now to the website. Hey, you need a picture. No, it's a flow of information going out in real time. So and even Q&As that are maybe in the local room, but also you've got questions coming in virtually. You see that a lot too, and I think it's fascinating. So uh,
And to your both of your points, which I really love, Anna, and maybe you guys are already doing this, but even after you guys put on one of those events, even summarizing it or giving your spin to it or commentary or summary or whatever you say, that's got to be a valuable piece for the market too. Whether somebody downloads that later, you send it out as a mailer, you get some articles. I mean, there's just so much you could do with that.
We do just that. For the record, we do really nice summaries of every presentation, and we keep the presentations on the website so people can revisit them later or read the summaries. And I actually will print that every year, and I have, I think, 2 or 3 booklets of summaries of each of the presentations
Right.
that I've gone back to time and again just to refresh my memory about who the experts were, what they were sharing with us. So it's a nice tool.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, you know, um, I don't think it could, I think that people freaked out when it completely shut down during COVID, right? Black Swan. But if you really think about the history of trade shows, how far back these conventions and shows go, I mean, I had zero doubt that they would come back even better than what they were before. And it makes me think of the book Blue Ocean Strategy, where when it comes to traditional and virtual, you try to take the best parts of each model and you get rid of the bad parts, and then you put all the good parts together into some third thing that is new. And I think you're seeing a lot of that going on. So, our next point was the role of technology. I think we've been talking about it through the whole program. So, what I'd like to do is go to our final thoughts. And, thank you for hanging out with us. And I'll be interested to see your final thoughts. So, everybody stand by. And we have our silly, we're going to find the final thoughts silliness.
Final thoughts.
Oh man, I love it every time I see it. See, they can't see it, so they're like, they don't know what I'm enjoying over here. But if you were on b2bmarketingmindset.com, you would get to enjoy it too. But final thoughts. Let's start with our guest Anna.
Oh geez, putting me on the spot like that.
Oh, you bet. That's what we do here.
What's final thoughts? What are your key takeaways? What do you wanna leave us with?
I guess my key takeaways when it comes to trade shows is, one, they are important. They can be a really good economical platform for your company, as long as you do it strategically and you do it with a plan. And they are just a lot of fun, I think, for team members. You get to go, you get to engage, you get to learn and maybe peek in on what the competitors are doing in ways that you wouldn't get to do outside of a trade show.
Absolutely. Bill, what do you got? Final thoughts?
Just a couple. One, and Anna already said this, but I think this is just so worth mentioning again. If you got to have a plan. Even if you're just going as an attendee, you should have a plan of what is your goal, of what you're trying to do. It's not just go and collect tchotchkes, unless that's your plan. So I think the plan is really key. The second thing, and you and I have done this a million times, Pete, and I think this is really worth mentioning. It's just a great place to capture research, so whether you're doing a focus group with customers or industry leaders, or you're walking around getting competitive intelligence, it's just rich with the opportunities for research. And so, I think that would be another really good thing to think about.
We're not disparaging the strategy of just attending, right? You don't always have to exhibit. A lot of times, so even if you're just going to attend and walk the show is what I call it,
right.
Do that a lot. But you still have a strategy going in, right? That's kind of the point there. So, this topic, it's great to see that we're talking about it. It's great to see that these trade shows are back, all kinds of innovation going on there. I actually think it's going to become a golden time for trade events. And also as AI starts to take over, our AI overlords, I think people are yearning for a personal face-to-face experience, and not through these machines like we are today. Wouldn't this be fun if we were all in the same room? Alas, we are not. But we are everywhere fine podcasts are consumed. So join us next week. And I know we have another guest next week. I'm just not going to hazard a guess. I forgot to go look up who it is. But we always have amazing guests like Anna today. Thanks again. And we'll see everybody else out there in podcast land next Thursday, 11 o'clock. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Anna.
You've been listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset with Pete Monfre and Bill Lowell. Add to the conversation by commenting, sharing, and liking. And don't forget to subscribe and check out the links in the comments. Learn more at b2bmarketingmindset.com.